Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for a model and rules review of the Domitar Class Battle-Automata for the Mechanicum by Forge World. So, I'm going to, here we have him, he's built. I picked this guy up at the New Year's Open Day 2017. Show you the model, take you through that and the build and discuss that. And then I'm going to talk about the rules and tactics for this unit in game. I'm going to extend the rules and tactics review to include the Domitar Ferrum class Battle-Automata, which is a Iron Warrior specific unit. And I'm going to include that. So I don't think I'll ever buy a Domitar Ferrum model, but commenter Thomas Timonen asked if I could cover that. So yes, I'll do that. Okay, let's have a look at this impressive warrior droid. Don't know if we can call them droids in the context of a 40k. This warrior robot. So yeah, wow, yeah, I had a lot of fun building this guy. It is a melee robot, as you can see, and you kind of get this feeling that it's this hulking gladiator of a thing. And when I posed it, I went for a nice dynamic pose, as if it were about to lunge down with one of its enormous fists. And these weapons here, the Graviton, these Graviton fist weapons, about to lunge down on its opponents with those. Right, so kit quality on this one was it was so-so. There are a number of parts that I had to get replaced. And there's a couple of watch out for you guys if you buy one of these. I had to get the torso replaced, and the reason for that was the fine detailing in between these pistons and the torso had been lost because the mould had broken, so it was just like a great sludge of resin that filled one of those out. And it was also significantly mould slipped at the bottom. Now, you want to be careful of mould slips on structural joints like the waist, because that means if it slips, the part is out of shape and you're not going to get a proper contact when you build it. So I got that changed. I also, another watch out on the parts of the ends of the Graviton fists, the Graviton Hammers, to give it its correct rule name. And you can see that it's got these little protrusions on each fist. Now they're fairly delicate, however, and when on one of these, a set of those were snapped off. So I also exchanged that part as well. Other watch outs are these cables. They come within a frame. They're cast in a resin frame. But yeah, just be wary of mould slippage on that, because I was actually caught out with these guys. And when I actually took all the flash away, there was quite a bad mould slip. So I probably spent the best part of an hour cleaning all the mould lines off those two. So that was a bit of an annoyance. I also had some mould slippage on this part here, so I had to rebuild that with some modelling filler. So that's one to watch out for as well. Yeah, so that's a kit quality. But that aside, the end model is brilliant. I think it's a fantastic model. And it certainly poses very well. So let's have a look at some of the details. It has a Mechanicum crest on it. It has all this articulation, the sort of like waist and chest area. It's got these legs, and these legs are very much in the style of they're kind of like, they look like the Castellax's legs made bigger, and also they also take some design cues off the Thanatar as well, so it's an intermediate sort of size. And you've got these hands. The thumbs are posable, so you can create some sort of, you can vary the pose on those. And then the shoulders are on a ball joint, so you've actually got quite a wide range of motion. And it was quite nice on this kit that the Forge World designer made these cables, for the Graviton Hammers to the atomantic reactor. They actually made them a decent length, so you can actually exploit the posability on the limbs, which sometimes they don't always get right. And in particular, the Thanatar, the bolt cannon feeds are are restrictive in terms of how you can pose it. So that was a nice design feature on this. Got some other sort of design cues kept from the Castellax as well, like the reactor and these cooling vents. The face is sort of like this half covered, and then two sort of optics on the other side. So it does look gladiatorial, and I do like that. It has these large impressive shoulders as well. So you can imagine it has considerable protection for its arms against blows from above. You can see here there's a missile launcher in this cowl, and this is the only range weapon. Now I've not glued this on this yet because you get an option, and you get an alternate piece here. And basically the idea, I believe, on this is, given that this is a melee robot and it has these Graviton Hammers, the missile launcher is sort of on a pop-up set of pistons, so you can, when it's fighting in melee and perhaps not firing, the launcher can close for protection. So that's a nice alternative to get there. I'm going to put the missile launcher version on, so I like the detail. Right, in terms of building this kit, right, pinning and more pinning. This, as it comes, this is really rather fragile, particularly the leg assemblies, and I would highly recommend you extensively pin them. So the leg assemblies, you've got a separate foot, a separate lower leg, then the upper leg is separate, and then each leg goes into the hip, which then attaches to the chest. The joins on this are not particularly strong, I don't think, and also you've only got a ball joint here. Pin the ankle, pin the sort of like second knee. I put a pin running through the hip, so both of these legs are connected by a steel pin. I put a stout steel pin between the hips and the chest, because there's a lot of force going to sit there. And I also pinned each shoulder with again another stout pin, and that's because I've gone for this quite dynamic open-armed pose. And I also put some thin pins into the end of these cables as well to give them some additional strength. Yeah, so I would highly recommend that you do pin this model for strength, particularly the legs, because I think if you don't, it's going to be very prone to breakage. Posability, as you can see, is fantastic. When I built this, I posed the arms first, and then did these shoulder pads afterwards, and I actually found that this one didn't quite fit because I'd gone for a bit too dynamic a pose, although it was within the range of the ball joint. So what I simply did is I just cut a little bit of the material away to give myself a bit of room, then heated it up and just fixed it in position, and it actually worked rather well. And you can see it's in a slightly different position to the other one, and you would imagine that the shoulder plates would move. So I was quite happy with how that turned out, and it allowed me to get this pose with the Graviton Hammer raised up in the air as if it's about to be brought crashing down on its opponent. But overall, a very nice model, and it has a kind of, I don't know, I suppose it's all fists and stuff. There's no guns really attached to this. It has quite a different look to all the other earlier automata and Talax cyborgs that the Mechanicum got. And now talking about the look of it, let's do some size comparisons. Right, let's start off with a comparison against an Astartes. So here we have a Marine trooper wearing Mark 6 armour, and yes, it is it certainly towers over the Marine. As a matter of fact, yeah, the Marine looks minute next to it. Okay, let's move the size up a bit. So we'll leave the Marine on. Let's put one of its Mechanicum overseers beside it. So here we have a Myrmidon Secutor. And yes, even the Myrmidons, which are enormous by human standards, is only really reaching its waist. So let's move aside. Let's take those two infantry guys away and compare against a couple of larger things. So its well-known stablemate, the Class Battle-Automata. Yeah, so it is probably about a quarter taller. So yeah, substantially larger, and a lot of that additional size is in the shoulders and the legs in particular. Yeah, so again, also looks like it's towering over even a Castellax. And now let's move to the Legion for a final comparison. And here we have an Iron Hands Contempt to Dreadnought. Oops. And with the Contempt, we finally have something of a comparable size to the Domitar. So yeah, a big model, and the Domitar costs, I think it's I believe it's £48 at the moment. So a little bit cheaper, more expensive than a Castellax, but a bit cheaper than a Contempt with the arm weapons. Yeah, so but yeah, there you have it. I mean, yeah, as I say, it's a very nice model, and it's a nice change in style compared to earlier Mechanicum models that we've seen. You know, I think I got one really just to fill out the style of robots in my force. I don't know necessarily if I'll buy a big unit of them, but it's certainly a nice thing to have. Okay, so let's move on to the rules for the Domitar. So for my rules, I'm referencing the Mechanicum Tag Matter Army List Red Book, the first edition. Right, so the Domitar is an Elite's choice. So Elite's choice in the Mechanicum list. So that's good straight away, because it takes it out of the same slot as its stablemate. So we have the Castellax, which sits in the troop slot. We have the Vorax, which is a fast attack option. We have the Thanatar, which is in heavy support. And now we have the Domitar, nicely occupying elites. So that is it's good to have something in each slot. And it means you can have a variety of robots without filling out all of your options, bringing up, say, all your troops or your heavy support. The mana pool costs 175 points, and the Domitar has a following profile. So it's weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 3, strength and toughness is 7, it has 4 wounds, initiative 3, attacks 3, and attacks 3 includes having 2 Graviton Hammers, leadership 7, and a saving throw of 3+. Equipment, it's a monstrous creature. For its war gear, it has a missile launcher, which is mounted in this armoured cowl, with crack and ignis frag missiles, 2 Graviton Hammers, and atomantic shielding. And special rules are Cybernetica Cortex, Reactor Blast, Crusader, and Brutal Charge. Then your options around it are, you can increase the mana pool size up to 5, 175 points for each extra Domitar. And then your equipment is quite limited. You can have a searchlight, frag grenades, and unusually you can have flak missiles for the missile launcher for 5 points. And then the only other option you have is to give a 1 strong mana pool, the Paragon of Metal special rule. Yeah, so it's there's not a lot of choices to it. It's a pretty straightforward unit. I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed to want to take frag grenades with it. And I guess straight away you notice it's profile-wise, it is very close to the Castellax. There's not a lot of air between the two. I mean, this has an extra attack. It trades weapon skill for ballistic skill in equal portions. So, and then it has an extra point of initiative. So, and then an extra point of strength. So, quite minor differences between this and the Castellax. And so you're thinking, well, 70 points difference. What am I getting? Well, I guess what this is bringing to the table is Crusader special rule, and then its close combat option. So, in the close combat sits around these two, the Graviton Hammers, and these are very potent melee weapons. So they are strength 10, AP 2, and they have the rules concussive, wrecker, and melee. Now, In addition, these guys work a bit like Breacher Marines with boarding shields, i.e. any assault against the Domitar counts as being disorganised. And I see that as being a key tactical application of this unit. It is the Mechanicum's equivalent of the Breacher Marines for basically sucking all the power out of the really potent on the charge units. The difference, I guess, with this compared to the Breach Marines, however, is this thing can hit back in equal measure. I mean, this is a dedicated melee unit. So, you know, if you look at the Marine Legion, this almost encompasses tactical capabilities of both the Breach Marines and also something as potent as a Contemptor or even Leviathan Dreadnought in terms of its melee capability. Right, special rules. Right, Brutal Charge is nice. This guy a Domitar inflicts D3 Hammer of Wrath attacks on the charge. So you've got 3 nice rules working there to give this thing the upper hand in any close combat situation. You've got the Crusader rule, you've got brutal charge, and then you've also got the Graviton Hammers. So if you get the charge in, you're really going to hurt your opponent hard. If your opponent manages to get one up on you, your Graviton Hammers are going to take the force out of his assault on the first turn. So yeah, very nice. The only other special rule on this is the Ignis Frag Missile option. And basically it's a Strength 5 AP6, Blast 3, Ignores Cover rule. So, you know, the missile launcher on this thing is a bit of an odd weapon, and I don't quite know why they put it on. It's not particularly effective with the crack missile coupled with ballistic skill 3. You've got no option to equip it with an enhanced targeting array either, so you've never got particularly good accuracy. I mean, I guess the Ignis missile means you've got a blast weapon, and I suppose flak missiles are rare in Mechanicum list, but you almost feel that this thing should have been armed with a bolt cannon, just like a Castellax, or some other similar weapon. The missile launcher is an odd choice, which I can't really get my head around, but anyway, there you go. It is what it is. So, now, this is one of those units in the Mechanicum list that struggles to shine in a way, and it's because the Mechanicum list has so many good units, and I suppose it's a bit like the Myrmidon Secutors, which I really like the Myrmidon Secutors. However, there are other units that do their role in a similar sort of way, and you know, and can do the same thing as they do. And I think this guy, the Domitar, also suffers from that a bit, particularly with the introduction of Book 6, which has given us the Class Battle-Automata, which in terms of its close combat potency is actually a very close match to the Domitar, and arguably, given its jetpack, or jump pack, sorry, not jetpack, jump pack, arguably, you know, perhaps more effective than this guy. I mean, the Domitar does benefit by being toughness 7 as opposed to toughness 6, but yeah, I think it does struggle to stand out. However, having used Breach Marines in my Marine Legion, I do appreciate the disordered charge granting capability of these, and I can see that cleverly deployed against melee-centric elite forces, so particularly World Eaters, which I often play against, these are going to work very nicely, and you can really throw an enemy out if you force his elite melee unit to make a disordered charge. I suppose it's worth mentioning the Paragon of Metal on this guy. It's not the strongest robot. You know, it's not as strong as a Thanatar, but giving it Rampage and it will not die, and the ability just to go and do its own thing does fit well with its profile, and also as well, think about which list you play this in. Clearly, this benefits greatly from being part of a Legio Cybernetica list and getting the extra point of initiative. So taking it up to initiative step 4 means that you fight on a par with standard Space Marines, which is very good. I mean, I suppose other clever uses. I mean, the Domitar has clear applications as a delivery system for some of the nasty Mechanicum warlord characters. You know, there's a variety of Magos and Magos Dominus characters. Anyone who's got Patris Cybernetica and can join a monstrous creature unit. These guys obviously can act as meat shield to those. There's a couple of Mechanicum warlords. So there's Inar Satariel and Anacharis Scoria, who both have Patris Cybernetica and could join one of these. Interesting with Patris Cybernetica, there's nothing to say that you can't join a Paragon of Metal unit if you have Patris Cybernetica. So you can see a rather a nasty combo there. A Paragon of Metal plus one of those two. Well, gosh, yeah, good looking close combat against them. Right, so yeah, so it's an interesting one. It is a speciality. It's a speciality unit, but if you're fighting against melee-centric legions, the Graviton Hammers really do have a place in opposing those elite melee units and diffusing their first turn charge capabilities. Okay, so let's move now to the Domitar Ferrum, which is an Iron Warriors only Battle-Automata. So these guys, so these are more expensive. These come in at 205 points. You have no equipment options. You can have a maniple strength of up to 6. The profile is the same apart from a couple of differences. So ballistic skill moves up to 4, and attacks drops to 2, and leadership rises to 8. Equipment, it has Olympia pattern bolt cannon, a Graviton maul, a Carcery battle shield, searchlight frag grenades, and then a special rule which is moving bulwark. Now, so it keeps brutal charge just like the standard Domitar. The Carcery battle shield is the same as Atomantic shielding in that it gives a 5+ invulnerable save. However, if you put 2 Domitar Ferrum in base-to-base contact, that increases up to a 4+ under the moving bulwark rule, so they form a shield wall, and they can also reroll any armor or invulnerable saves that failed against blast and template weapons, so that's a very handy capability. And you can also join any independent character, single independent character, with the Legions Astartes as Iron Warriors rule, or Perturabo himself can join a unit of Domitars, and they benefit from the moving bulwark rule as well. So you can imagine Perturabo with a bunch of these guys, just how, I mean Perturabo's tough to start with, surrounded by a bunch of these, surrounded by a bunch of Domitar Ferrums, is going to be unkillable. Right, the Graviton Maul, it has the same stat line as a Graviton Hammer, with the exception that if you roll a 6 to hit, you generate an additional automatic hit. So that offsets a bit of the lower attack stat, I guess. Now, the Olympia pattern bolt cannon is a much more sensible weapon for the Domitar, if you ask me. It's range 36, strength 5, AP 4, heavy 5, pinning. So it is a fast-firing heavy bolter with a pinning rule. So perfect, an excellent weapon for the Domitar. Domitar Ferrum. Why the standard Domitar can't have something similar, I don't know. And then there is a final special rule that accompanies the Domitar Ferrum. And basically, this applies after the Battle of Fal only. Perturabo can select the Iron Circle of 4 or more models as a command squad. And they're dedicated to him for the battle. And if you do that, you can also then give them an extra point of weapon skill, 1 extra point of leadership, +1 initiative, or feel no pain 6+ as a free additional upgrade. So you can only do one of those for the unit, but you can see there's some great capabilities there as well. So yes, so that is the Domitar Ferrum class. Yeah, I mean, a very, very potent melee robot with, you know, decent fire as well. And if you can deploy a unit of those against enemy infantry, they're going to be hard pressed to fight it. I mean, yeah, you need other equivalent units to take them on. Right, anything else to say on the Domitar? I guess I'm not so for all you keen Cybertheurgists out there, I've not yet touched on the Cybertheurgy capabilities of this robot. This is a good robot for Cybertheurgy, and this is probably some of a way to buff it back up to make more sense in terms of combat capabilities. And the reason is the abilities that favour it the most, the easiest to execute. So the right of celerity, which is a straight up roll on your leadership, grants +2 initiative to this guy. So, you know, put the right of celerity on it, and then you'll be striking on a par with Marine Legion characters. If you're Legio Cybernetica, you'll be initiative stat 6, and you'll be striking ahead of most Marines, even the heroes. So that's a potent Cybertheurgy power for it. And then the other obvious synergy with this is a Rite of Fury, which you execute at a -1 to your leadership test. However, if that's successful, it gains 2 attacks. So that will put you on an attack stat of 5. If you've charged, then you're on 6. If it's a Paragon of Metal, Rampage is giving you a further D3 attack. So if you roll well with a Paragon of Metal with the Rite of Fury, you could be on 9 attacks on the charge at initiative step 4 if you're also Legio Cybernetica. So yeah, don't forget your Cybertheurgy with the Domitar, because that really has the power to make it shine. There you have it then. That's the Domitar. That was quite a long review. There was a lot of ground to cover with the, you know, as typical with Mechanicum, there's lots of synergy capabilities with it. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that. Let me know what you think about the Domitar, and do you think it is a worthwhile unit in the Mechanicum list, or is it a bit of a fifth wheel? I'll be interested to hear. Thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.